I'm going to show you something cool. Okay. I can't see it this way because it's relative to your perspective and not my own. So, from your perspective, it looks like I'm walking on the ceiling. And this balloon is being pulled to the ground, but it actually doesn't fall down because it has a weight. So it's not really in between, or not really in one pulled direction or the other. And I can show you that it's not pulled down or upwards because I can do this with it. And as long as I hold it and move the wire around, it won't go up or down. It'll just kind of waft between it. Because the string I'm holding is keeping it in a position that is between where it usually is, which is either on the ground or up in the air. The reason it's upside down is because it's doing the opposite style thing that this would do. It's doing the exact same thing as this balloon and this pom-pom would do, except the relative support is in the opposite direction. Now I'm going to put it back upwards and I'm going to find a place to rest the phone so that I can better explain this. They're doing the same thing in opposite directions. I don't know if you can tell, but they're mirroring each other's shape. I have to keep moving this or it'll stick to it and bend it, which actually this one can't do unless I bend this. It's also not long enough and not flexible. But it works entirely backwards from the other. And I might be able to show you how that works in a second, but I have to pause it to show how this would have not a different effect. If I put this on there, it would do that, but it wouldn't bend like this, but you wouldn't even be able to hold this up with this. So it's not even perfect. It goes beyond it, which is interesting. And I originally found that because I was attempting to make the balloon fall towards a direction or another. And I don't know if this is obvious on yours, but it doesn't work. Which means that its support is elsewhere than the hourglass. It's actually probably more in here, where the weight isn't the same, and it is affected by this, simply because it's only going to move once it bounces in the direction of the heavier weight. So that's just an update on the gravity part that I was discussing earlier. No, you are not touching this balloon. Nope. Cleo. She's being bad because she doesn't know what it is. balloon, I'd say for okay. A balloon is mostly just air. There are two things that I wanted to say. The first is the trick with this has been shown to be possible because I can do it. But the trick like this, where it goes in one direction, actually seems to go... Cat's coming again. Seems to go in the opposite direction from what I suspected, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how that thing works. As such, that's an example of a proof being of a different kind than the permeating stuff. And I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. So, the idea that smoke can create shapes is a valid point. The idea that it has anything to do with my mind is not, beyond the appearance of the shapes I put into the cloud with my mind, but not the appearance of the cloud. Like, they're separate, if that makes sense. They're not one and the other. And if they were, and they can be, if you put them like that, but if you can't, then they don't look that way. For example, there's many things in that cloud, you can see it, which you could see if you kept rewatching the video and looking for a different thing. You don't even have to be in the room to find multiple images in the cloud. So, while the illusion created by your mind with pareidolia and the coincidence of that shape appearing in a cloud it doesn't actually show whether the small bear in the cloud is even the same bear that you saw in the cloud when you looked for it as soon as I brought it up. But it doesn't mean that because there's no true or false in the reality of that cloud, which is both relevant to the cloud, both in our mind, which is the unfalsifiable that covers whether something is the case or not, and the cloud in the reality, which looks like something or something else and could be debated about forever, whether it looks like SpongeBob or a square with sticks in it. So, you could debate about that forever, but the real use comes not from the debate over whether it is a cloud or SpongeBob or a pile of sticks and a square brick. Comes in how you improve the present technology or natural substance such that it creates color in that smoke. And in turn, it creates images by altering the very thing that makes the illusion in the first place, such as clouds that man can control rather than clouds that the wind controls. And thus, something like holograms can be made from the same thing as the snow subject that I mentioned earlier, except it knows how to use the air to its advantage because it's a computer or a drone smaller than the eye can see that changes color and floats through the air like a balloon. Can't help that. I'm being too dramatic. I'll be back.
Okay, I drew a picture. The meaning, once again, is not easy to decipher without the information next to the picture, which I wrote down so that I wouldn't forget. The unfalsifiable, so like the ideas that we can't distinguish whether they are true or false, and the real things that we can distinguish are true or false exist for preference rather than for debate. And the reason I say that is because you don't have to use this kind of magic wand if you didn't want to. It wouldn't be fair to expect someone to use that magic wand if they didn't want to. But things that are invisible, like ideas that are similar to this magic wand, but maybe without the string attached, where the ball just floats on its own, can be made visible. Like, I could make this into a balloon drone instead and have the wand control it with like Wi-Fi or something, or Bluetooth, and the ball would float around, maybe even with better accuracy than this pom-pom on the string. Not everything is like scalable the same way, but a lot of it can be hidden in scale and art. Not all the unknowable is always unknown. Like, there are ways to find things that are knowable from the unknown things. And one of the reasons for this entire thing is that the world isn't for just one person, but many. So, it's not fair to expect or force someone to only do unfalsifiable stuff when there's also real stuff, and vice versa. My goal, or our goal, or whatever, here, that's misspelled, is to use the limitations I have in my surroundings to still develop something I can do. Because, like, I can't build a drone with a with this ball to make it float, because I don't have the technology for it. But I got as close as I could get with the ball and a string. And that's not the only goal in existence, which is the last thing. Like, you can think of other things and points to living and just one that's listed in a book somewhere. Yeah. I'm half asleep. It's like 7 in the morning. But today we're going to try to improve the abilities of both the magic we described and the wand, and even the gravity related stuff from earlier. These are the three things we're going to do. We're going to improve the spectrum manipulation through more objective means with light, sound in mind. So we'll find a way to improve the overall effect so that it's less coincidental and unfalsifiable. We're going to explore how smoke as a form of image in relation to sound and light works. And we're going to improve our gravity manipulation through the spectral ability and temporal advancement, which we did before. And just so you know, I will probably use some unfalsifiable with the objective, because I'm limited in my environment and it's the only way I can emulate certain parts of stuff. But we will also work on improving the world we created so that it's more realistic, because right now it's very minimal in its detail. So let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to cast a magic spell using the light in the room as a way to follow the instructions to use sound, or like I'm going to use magic to find out how I'm going to use sound the same way I'm using light in this circumstance. So let's start. We've got this, we've got this, and we've got this. We've seen these cards multiple times because I haven't shuffled. But, okay. So, you can do this with pretty much any kind of magic. You could use pendulum too, and we actually will. So, each thing in this camera recording, except for the deck, is part of the magic. The point is that each variable reflects some part of the instructions. Okay, so candle represents color, so like music, sound, different notes. Star represents the player of that music. This thing represents the choreograph. This represents meaning, and the pom-pom represents the subject. I'll show you what I mean in a bit. What we're going to do is create a music which matches the action of the video that you haven't seen yet. And then we're going to play it and figure out what it means, even though it doesn't carry any meaning to begin with. And it's actually in manipulating those meanings that you sort of understand how what I'm getting at works. It's not the same as just casting a spell and waiting for it to happen. More like following an instruction to cause something to happen. But it's not always perfect, but it has a higher rate of success because it requires thought rather than magic. So, we'll be back. Parts to that music, and there's the motion of the pom-pom thing that would make for 3 meanings and 1 action. So the action seems to be erratic and random, while the music seems to come in 3 tones. That's very obvious. But what can this magic cause in the self and not in the environment? That is the question. I'm going to have to write it down to figure it out. So I'll be back. It seems to imply erratic beating, wafting, and bouncing, which seems to suggest that at some point I'm going to dance, if I want to, because I don't actually have to listen to this. And a dancing spell can be caused simply by dancing. But I tried translating it to something else, but I got bored. So the point of it is that the meaning rather than the coincidence is actually more powerful, because using what it means can give you instructions on what to do that you can choose from, rather than taking a coincidence and accepting the price of that coincidence as something that must occur but might not. Same with the candle thing. Rather than causing a spell, we gain something from a very similar action to what could be called a spell. So the meaning in the art is rather more important to what to do than the hope for something to manifest simply because we did something before that had no evidential cause. So it's actually far more useful to use a pendulum to find out what you'll do for the day, rather than let it tell you what will happen. For example, will I find something fun to do? Will do nothing, but saying, should I go with the gravity next? And the answer is no. But in either case, it predicts the future, because you decide to do the future, or you decide not to do that future. Or actually, it depends. If you do the pendulum and let it decide for you, then you're stuck with that future and you're waiting for it to happen. But if you decide what the future is yourself and leave this as an optional thing where it gives you ideas rather than forces events, it's actually more useful and permits control over the future rather than not at all. And there's a small kitty over there. Hello, kitty. Another way you can manipulate smoke is with light, and we're going to show you that right now. Same thing as last time, just going to stand in the room and blow smoke. I don't know if you can see this, so I might have to redo this. But darn it. That one's battery ran out. Yeah. This one's the best one though. That one would have been cool, but it's not working. The best way oh, you can't see that. With a laser pointer, because you can actually see the laser pointer in, it looks like a cobweb. People know how to do this, but it's still sweet. Also makes a good lightsaber. Yeah, okay. See, that's one way to manipulate light. This is kind of cool. All right. Yeah. If we can get this one to work, be happy. I think the battery's dead on blue light. Yeah. So another way to manipulate smoke. It also helps with the thing. But in case you didn't notice, the light from the laser pointer, which I'm pointing directly at the camera, doesn't affect the smoke in any way. It doesn't change the motion over a very large scale. Pointing this laser pointer at the at the rock or that I'm throwing isn't going to change its effect very highly. Cool. Anyways, best way I can think of changing the direction and motion of an object is with the wind over there, like that, and with the gravity thing that I've been working on for the last couple days, where you change the position of the mass and it changes the chances of where it'll land mid-flight. But I think you have to do more than just the mass now to do it, because the balloon experiment suggests that it works a little differently than just hourglasses leaning in one direction or the other. So more work should be done on that. Another way to manipulate smoke without actually just using coincidence so much is to have it appear in different backgrounds, because the smoke will distort the background and take on its own shape, which will have images in it, and those images will be partially colored by the background. I don't have any way of doing that. I'm not going to do it inside because it's rude to my family, so we're not going to do that. But you could easily do that by using a background, and you can even improve the visibility while decreasing the coincidence through the use of backgrounds and smoke. And you can use music as a form of inspiration to find what you're going to see in that smoke, rather than having to think and try to visualize it in the smoke. The music will help. It almost create like a show with the smoke. Like I mentioned before, that there were wolves running around. Well, I was listening to a song about wolves. Yeah, you can do that with that, but it's not the sound that necessarily caused the effect, because I don't think my phone has an intent to make the wolves appear. It's because I'm looking in the smoke and seeing the wolves in relation to the sound, because it's in my head. But there's no way to show whether it's that or the other way. So it's up to you, and it can still be a very interesting trick and thing to do. And it's almost like TV, but with smoke. And I'm gonna leave the video there and do the world furthering in the next video.